Hey everybody, what's up? This is an objection handling course for sales reps and XDRs. This is a fundamental skills course, so we're not going to get into any like super advanced techniques here or anything like that, but we're just covering the basics. Let's dive in. For those of you that haven't met me, my name's Greg Ross. I'm an expert sales coach and trainer. I've got about 20 years of experience in software and tech sales, and been a top performer, and also led the global sales training and enablement program for the flagship portfolio company for Vista Equity Partners. So I know a thing or two about sales, and we're going to have a lot of fun in this course today. I'm going to teach you how to overcome objections, difficult objections that might be coming up as you are doing one of two things, right? So there's cold call objections that typically surface when you're making cold calls, and I call them cold call objections, but these could also be cold email objections or objections you hear on LinkedIn, right? They typically fall into like the same categories. So there's your objections that you run into when you're prospecting. Now, hopefully all of you are prospecting. Even if you're a sales rep and you have an SDR dedicated to you, you should still be prospecting. If you're not, you need to be. So I'm going to teach you some cold call objections, but actually not in this presentation. So what I'm going to do is toss a link in the description below to another video that I've created on cold call objection handling, which I think is going to be great. It'll be a good fundamental level understanding for you. So if you're an XDR, you're going to want to click on that link and check out that video. And I've put a little link in the presentation also. But these cold call objections, they come up typically during cold outreach. They're objecting to taking a meeting with you, right? And now these are fairly easy to overcome if you're prepared. So you should be sitting down, coming up with a list of the top objections that you're running into as you're making your cold calls, sending your emails, and then you want to focus on like the top 3 every week, right? You want to get a little bit better at handling those objections, create an objection handling plan. I go into all of that in the video below. All right, now for all of you sales reps, we're going to be really focusing in this course primarily on sales objections. These are objections that come up throughout the sales process from discovery to close, right? These are objections to buying your product or services, and these objections are typically more difficult to overcome unless you know the secret, and we'll talk about that, right? So hopefully what this is going to do is it's going to build your confidence when it comes to handling some of those objections. And I'm going to be leading from the tip of the spear on this, okay? So I'm going to show you, I'll step in and actually go toe-to-toe with AI here in a second. Oh boy. And practice objection handling in front of you so you can see what that looks like. Now, let's talk about the big 4 types of objections that you typically run into when you're moving through the sales process from discovery to close, right? These are not cold call objections. These are types of sales objections. There's an easy acronym. I've heard it referred to as NUTS. I've heard it referred to as Nut Dollar. I think that's how ChatGPT refers to it. Anyways, it's an acronym, right? So it stands for need. That's the N. They don't need it, right? I don't need you. I don't need your services. I don't need what you're selling. Get out my face, right? So that's kind of the need objection. Urgency. Not right now. Hey, sounds interesting. Not right now. The T stands for trust. So can you even do this? Should I trust you? That's actually a very, very big issue in sales that most people completely underestimate. They take it for granted that they should be trusted automatically. Or I should say they assume that they should be trusted automatically. Says who? Nobody trusts you that you can do what you say you can do. And I would say the default assumption is that salespeople do not have credibility, right? Typically, they'll tell you they can do all kinds of things that they can't actually do, overpromise and underdeliver. So we're going to talk about trust. There's a quote that I love. Oh yeah, I just remembered this. Man, this is a good quote. Business moves at the speed of trust. If you can find out who quoted that or who that quote is attributed to, shoot me a note on LinkedIn and let me know, would you? That's one of my favorite quotes, and I really should dig in and see who said it. And then the dollars, right? Budgets. Budgets are tight. This is like a common theme that I've been hearing throughout my entire career. Hey, Greg, budgets are just really, really tight right now, right? So we'll talk about all 4 of those. N, need. U, urgency. T, trust. And the dollars, right? The budget. All right. Now, most salespeople have like a horrible reaction to objections. They just like really hate objections. But you shouldn't actually. If you want to be a trusted advisor in the eyes of your clients, your customers, if you want to have credibility, if you want to be a problem solver and solve challenges for your clients, then you should listen to objections. Objections are good. They can help point you in the right direction. They're a sign that the prospect is actually engaged. And I put an example here, right? So the seller says, and that's how we're going to solve that challenge for you, Mr. Prospect. And the prospect says, that would be great, but how do I know you can actually solve it? That's not a question that they're going to ask if they're disengaged and they don't care about doing business with you, right? That's a question that somebody asks when they're actually considering what you're saying. They're listening, they're engaged, right? Now, I'm sure you've all had a demo or a sales call where the person turns off their camera. You know they're eating like a sandwich, right? You can hear them chewing and slurping on a soda. Everything you say, they're like, yeah. No objections, no questions. They just want to get through their 30 minutes and get off the phone. That's someone who's actively disengaged. There's a statistically very low likelihood that they're going to purchase anything from you or move forward with any kind of partnership. But if they're engaged, they'll ask questions, and those questions may sound like objections. They may actually object. But that's good, right? They're playing the game. They're engaged with you, and that's what we want. Now, remember, I said that objections can help point you in the right direction. So objections can be very, very helpful, believe it or not. If you're paying close attention, objections can point you in the right direction. Now, listen, there's a ton of sales trainers out there that make a lot of money off of teaching you how to be reactive when it comes to objections. And you're going to get a little bit of that in the course today, okay? But I think it would be really good, much better, in fact, if you learn how to be proactive. So we talked about those 4 categories, right? Need, urgency, trust, budget. When you get an objection, what the prospect is actually saying to you is, hey, you haven't done a good job, Greg, of convincing me in that area, right? So if they give you a need objection, what they're actually saying is, you haven't given me a good reason to need this. If there's an urgency objection, you haven't given me a good reason thus far as to why we should do this now. Maybe I agree that it's a good thing to do, but I don't think that we necessarily need to do it now, right? The trust, you haven't given me any reason to trust that you can actually do what you say you can do, right? And the budget question, I have no clue how much this costs. It could be $1 million, and I don't know if I can afford this. Those can be legitimate questions. So when you hear those questions, you hear those objections, what they're actually saying to you, now listen carefully to this, because if you get this, it's going to change everything for you in your sales process. It's going to take you from being a B player to being an A player. What they're actually saying is, you should have done a better job of addressing that before I had a chance to ask a question. So go back, look at your talk track, look at how you're presenting your materials. If you're constantly getting a trust objection at the end of your presentation, maybe you should move some social proofing into the first kickoff of the call, right? Let me tell you about some of our customers and why they love us, right? Boom, boom, boom. This is what I call inoculating the objection. Inoculation, right? That's when you get a shot and it prevents you from getting the flu, for example, or it's supposed to, right? We want to do that with sales objections. So if you're constantly getting a ton of trust objections at the end of your meeting, you want to go right up front and hit them heavy with 5 reasons why they should absolutely trust you. Not from your own voice, but from your customer's voice, right? If you're constantly getting a bunch of need objections, then you really want to hammer hard into why they need your solution. And you need to show how that solves challenges for them. Helps them make more money, helps them spend less, helps them reduce risk in their processes. All of those things are good reasons why they might need you. But if all you're doing is saying, here's what we do, and here's the features, and here's the price, then you haven't convinced anybody that they need your solution. So remember, those objections can be like a signpost showing you what you need to do to improve your own game, okay? Very important. All right. So let's talk about the three kind of steps to handling an objection. Now, this is a reactive posture, right? So they've asked the question. Now you're going to handle the objection, not proactively, reactively, right? This, I would be remiss if I didn't give you the best practices here, but you should know that this is not the best strategy. The best strategy is to be proactive, to identify those areas of objections that are going to come up and then address them proactively in your presentation, right? In your conversation. But until you get to that point, let's say that you're the first sales rep at a company, you don't have a team to, go around and ask what are the top objections you guys are running into. You got to blaze a trail and figure this stuff out on your own. If that's you, then this part is really going to help you, right? So step one, when you get an objection, ask a question. Make sure you understand exactly what the objection is, or if it's even an objection at all. Step two, now that you understand the objection, ask probing questions, right? Dig in a little bit. See if you can find your footing in the conversation and figure out how to overcome that objection. Step three, you want to present a solution, right? Now in step two, if you can find pain or challenges, that's a really good thing. And I'll show you, hopefully, we'll see. When I go toe-to-toe with AI here in a second, I'll show you how to practice and role play that. Now, number one, asking a question. This is very important. I'll tell you a story. I was presenting a software solution to a room full of decision makers. Okay, there were 7 people at the table. Now, before I end a meeting, I literally go person to person and ask for their thoughts on what they've heard and what they've seen today. I got 6 glowing reviews, but the 7th person, who was a C-level person, he said, "Greg, who are your biggest competitors?" Now, I panicked. I thought this is an objection, right? Now, I'm sure you guys have all kinds of responses to that, right? Some of you lie and you say, "Oh, we don't have any competitors," even though you know you do, right? Some of you may say like, "Well, we have a couple of competitors. Here's their names. They compete with us in the space, and here's why they all suck," right? So kind of like you just start chucking competitive landmines out there like crazy, right? But what I did, and I don't even know why I did this. Actually, I do know why I did it. I did it because one time a sales manager told me, ask a question. If you don't know how to answer, ask a question. Stall for time. Turned out to be a great strategy because when I said, "Can you tell me why you're asking that question?" Do you know what he said? He said, "Well, we're a healthcare facility. We have to go through an RFP process. Unless you're unique in the market and there's no true competitors that can offer exactly what you do. So when I ask you that question, I'm hoping that you can tell me that you're unique and you don't have any competitors that have exactly the same software, the same offering that you have." See, he was trying to help me through my sales process. He really wanted it to be a win, and that wasn't an objection at all. But my first gut reaction was, oh, this is an objection. But if I didn't follow step one and ask a question there, I would have never known that, and I would have handled it as if it was an objection, and I could have lost the sale. So if you remember one thing from this presentation today, when you get asked a question and it sounds like an objection, or they make a statement that sounds like an objection, ask a question right away. And I'll do my best to demonstrate that on the role play. This one sales tip is going to save you a lot of heartache, and I promise at some point it will lead to a win that could have been a loss if you handled it incorrectly. You don't even know if what you're hearing is an objection until you ask and you find out for sure. All right, here we go, team. Are you ready? I'm going to go toe-to-toe with AI, and we're going to see how this goes. I'm going to position my tablet here where I access ChatGPT right in front of my microphone, so hopefully you can hear it. I'm going to move my video over here to the side, and we're going to do this. Now, as usual, I have put a prompt on the left side of this slide that you can literally read to your ChatGPT. Now, I like to use ChatGPT Voice, which is an app that you can download on your smartphone or your tablet, and it will literally talk to you as a voice synthesizer, and actually a pretty good one. It'll talk to you, and it will role play with you, and it's actually a great way to practice. Now, I would recommend you also practice with your peers on the sales team, practice with your manager, but maybe this will save your significant other the boredom and the just sheer agony of having to role play it with you as a non-salesperson. I'm sure that's the last thing they want to do. Unless your significant other is a salesperson, then it's game on, right? All right, here we go. I'm going to try my best to role play this and have it be successful. So here we go. By the way, when I do this, I don't know what ChatGPT is going to say, and I don't know how difficult it's going to be on me. I do this live for your entertainment and also to help teach you something about sales. So here we go. I'd like to role play with you. Let me practice handling sales objections. You'll be the prospect and I'll be the seller. For the purpose of this role play, you'll be an owner or CEO at a chain of skilled nursing facilities, and I'll be trying to sell you pharmacy cost management software.
Got it. I'm ready to play the role of the owner or CEO. Start whenever you're ready.
Great. So in summation, we are a pharmacy cost management partner that helps reduce your pharmacy spend through our software and our consultative approach. We're a fiduciary consultant. And what we're going to do is help you reduce your pharmacy spend and generate tons of cost savings for your organization.
That sounds promising, but I'm concerned about the complexity of integrating new software into our existing systems. How would you address that?
So I just want to ask a clarifying question here. So you have some systems that you're using already, and you're concerned that there's going to be a lot of complexity around integrating our software in with your solutions. Is that right?
Yes, exactly. We have several systems in place, and I'm worried that adding new software might complicate things or cause disruptions.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, that's a major concern, and it's a concern for us too, because we want this to be simple, easy, and we want it to be effective. So let me ask you, can you tell me what some of those systems are that you're most concerned with in terms of us being able to integrate?
Sure. Our main systems include our existing electronic health records and our financial management software. These are critical for our daily operations, so any new software will need to integrate smoothly with them without causing disruptions.
And who's your point of contact on your side that manages your IT infrastructure and manages or administrates those tools?
Our IT manager, Lisa, handles the administration of our IT infrastructure and manages our software tools. She's also the go-to person for any integrations or technical issues.
Yeah, so let me just put your concerns to rest here. So we work with over 2,000 skilled nursing facilities nationwide, and actually this is something we run across all the time. We have open API integrations with all of those tools. And to make you more comfortable, what I would propose is as we move forward with the process, I'd like to actually get Lisa on the next call so that we can specifically address that issue and make sure that she gives us a full check in the box that she's comfortable with our ability to integrate before we move forward with the process any further, okay? Can you invite her to the next call?
That sounds like a good approach. I'll make sure Lisa is available for the next call to discuss the integration details. When would be a good time for you to schedule that?
So before we schedule it, let me just ask you one more question, because this is I can tell this is a top priority for you, so I'm taking some notes here. When it comes to the integration of your other systems, I just want to let you know that we also integrate with not only with your systems, but with the systems at your pharmacy. So we actually integrate with their systems, and we get access to the pricing information for all of the pharmaceuticals that you're using, which gives us a good single source of truth when we're looking at areas of overspend, because as you know, there's billing mistakes that can happen. So I just wanted to add that detail that not only are we capable of integrating with your systems, but we'll be integrating with the systems that your pharmacy uses to help manage that spend more effectively. And has that been an area that you have struggled with in terms of reviewing those invoices for billing errors?
Yes, we've had issues with billing mistakes from our pharmacy before. It's been challenging to catch those errors, and it sometimes affects our budget management. Knowing that your software can help with that through integration is reassuring.
Excellent. Now let's schedule that next call. Okay, I went ahead and paused the AI. So you can see what that role play looks like, right? And if you read the instructions verbatim as I've written them on your screen, you'll really easily be able to prompt the AI to role play with you on objection handling. And you can even tell it how difficult to be. If you want it to be very difficult and hard to convince, you can specify that with the AI if you're really having, feeling like having some fun with it. All right, very good. Let's keep moving. Okay, examples of need objections. Now I'm going to just move my video here a little bit. So we talked about NUT $, right? So N stands for need. These are examples of what some need objections might sound like. Number one, our current system works fine. We really don't need something new. Number two, there haven't been any complaints about our current system, so there's no need to change anything. Number three, I'm not aware of any overspending, so there's no need to monitor our spend more closely. Number four, we're getting by with our current manual process. There's no need to change it. So what I want you guys to think about as you're looking at this slide is not necessarily how you're going to respond or react to those objections. But if you're hearing these kinds of objections in your process, what I want you thinking about instead is, how do I be proactive and actually prevent those objections from coming up in the first place? In other words, am I asking the right questions, and am I having the right conversations to show them that there's a need before we get to the end of the call? And actually, are they talking about it? Are they actually voicing that, not just me, right? All right, let's look at the next slide here. These are examples of urgency questions. Number one, I'm not looking to make any changes until next quarter. Number two, I don't see why I need to decide right now. We need to give this some thought. Number three, we're currently focused on other priorities and don't need anything new right now. And number four, we're not looking to examine our spending until next year. These are all examples of a lack of urgency, right? So again, instead of you thinking about how do I react and respond to these objections, I want you thinking, how do I prevent those objections from coming up in the first place by doing a really great job of asking good questions and getting the prospect to say how urgent it is for them to address these areas of overspending in the case of my example, right? All right, next, the T. These are all examples of trust objections. Number one, I haven't heard of your company before, so I'm not sure if I can trust you with our data. Number two, I've had bad experiences in the past. How do I know that this will be any different? Number three, I've never heard of this type of solution and I'm not sure it will be effective. And number four, I'm concerned about how effective your solution will be. These are all examples of areas where maybe you haven't done a good job of building the trust initially in your conversation. So if you're getting a lot of trust objections, what I would recommend that you do, work some what we call social proofing into the first part of your call, right? Show them some prominent customers that you're doing business with. Talk about how many customers you have, or how or reference some of the conversations that you've had with key decision makers, right? There's a great way that you can inoculate these objections from happening by making sure that you're addressing trust right up front in your sales calls. Next, I'm going to give you some examples of budget objections, or that $ in the NUT $ acronym. Number one, the cost is too high for our budget right now. Number two, how much is all this going to cost? It sounds expensive. Number three, we don't have the budget allocated for additional tools this quarter. And number four, how do you guys get paid? So listen, this is really important. You need to use these objections to learn how to talk about and socialize the cost, but more specifically, the return on investment. So you want to be prepared to explain to them that this is an investment and there's a return on investment. And just so you know, as a sales expert, when I propose solutions, I'm typically looking for at least a 3x return on investment for my customers as a trusted advisor. Okay? So what's next? I want you to take these recommendations seriously. They're going to help you up your game. First, create an objection handling plan where you document the top objections that you're encountering and the best responses. Now, you should collaborate with your peers on the sales team, and don't forget to talk to your manager or your leadership team to ensure that you're not missing out on the best possible objection handles. Now, if you work for a larger organization, you might even have some subject matter experts that are not on the sales team and that are not on the leadership team, but they're just experts when it comes to this certain industry, the field that you're doing business in. Don't leave them out. Make sure you talk to them. And spend 15 minutes building out the best possible responses to your top objections, and be ready to start using those responses during your sales process. Now, those might not be responses at all. It might actually be advantageous for you to change your sales process in some way or your talk track in some way so that you work in proactively the information that your prospect needs to feel satisfied in those areas before you get to the end of the call. But it starts with creating an objection handling plan. Remember what the famous sales philosopher Taylor Swift said: if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. All right, I want to thank you very much for viewing this presentation on objection handling. Go to my website or check out my YouTube channel if you want to see some great objection handling videos. Just go to your YouTube search bar and type in @TheGregRoss, and my channel will pop up. And there's tons of great objection handling materials there too. Thanks a lot, guys. Really appreciate you spending time with me today, and I hope that this helps you up your sales game. Have a great rest of your day.